Our final speaker today is Candice, who is the co-founder of 173 Tech. I'm really delighted to be able to hand over to you now for your talk.
Thanks so much, Saj, and thank you for the speakers before. How is everyone doing? Having a good time? Great, yay! Good, good to see some friends and new friends here. So, the topic today, we heard a lot about qualitative, quantitative analysis already. So what I'm going to focus on is one part of the 4 things Diana talked about on A/B testing. A little bit about myself. I tried to use 5 cute animals to describe it, but you can see I failed about 40% of the time. So I was born in Beijing, moved to Australia, then Paris for a couple of years, and then I came to London about 10 years before. I joined Bumble at the very beginning, where I started the analytics team from scratch and growing it to a big team, a very successful exit at 2019 to Blackstone for 3 billion, and also supporting 500 million of users finding love online. Anyone use Bumble here? Willing to share? All right, great. Couple, that's good. That's good, still going strong. And following the exit, my original data team, we got back together. We started a data analytics agency called 173 Tech. So a little bit about ourselves. So the things we do, like for example, if you have a great product analytics tool like Pando, you want to integrate a lot of other data sources. That could be your marketing channels, your CRM tools. So having that end-to-end analytics pipeline, that's what we do. We'll be going for about 4 years after Bumble's exit. We've been helping over 30 companies since then. So the 3 principles we believe in. So when it comes to data, you want your strategy to align with your company goals and your growth objectives. And you want to make sure you have a really good data stack. So the technology side, make sure they are frictionless, really easy to use. But most importantly, all this is supporting the people. So data is not built for just a data team or just for the founders. It should be built for everyone. So everyone should be empowered with the tool stack that you have. And today we'll be talking about how data could help product managers, and specifically when it comes to A/B testing. So most of you would already be familiar with why you should be A/B testing. How many of you are testing at your current company? Or yeah, that's great. So about half in the room. So why should you be A/B testing? First of all, validating product ideas. So we heard that from Diana before. At any point in time, if you have a product team, likelihood is you will have tens, hundreds, sometimes thousands of product ideas. You don't have the resources to do all of them. So what you want to do is have data guide your process. Second of all, when you're doing a MVP product, you want to release it to your market. So it's a very customer-centric approach. Send it out, listen to feedbacks from your real customers, and decide from there. Avoid very risky mistakes. So I know as a person myself, I'm quite impulsive. I like to follow my gut feelings, but data is really a good device to help you de-risk. So, follow your gut instinct, the common sense Diana talked about, but also use data to guide you on how to do the best with the minimum resources that possible. Finally, make sure you have an iterative and continuous, very efficient development process. So MVP, release it out to test in your customer base, and then from there, continuously improve with the same process. I'm going to use a very simple example to take you through, the steps you should do when it comes to A/B testing. So, back to the point before, identifying the question, right? So what is your biggest question? So in this case, this company is a subscription app. And the biggest problem they have at this point is people are not signing up for a free trial. So one of the ideas they wanted to test is the click-through, the call to action button. So we have 2 copies here. First of all, you want to define your hypothesis. So by changing the click to action button text, they will increase the click-through rate. That leads to the target metrics. In this case, is the CTA. make sure you know the baseline. So what is a baseline? A baseline is what is your current number. So the current CTA for this company is 35%. So this is the first thing you need to know. Set the goals, know your numbers currently. And second, you want to define your test audience. In this case, you will have a control group. So that's what's currently being used in the app, and then test groups. So it doesn't have to be 50-50. It really depends on the product you have, the stages of your product, of your services, how many users you have. So you could be released to 5% of the customer base. You might also have multiple variants. So maybe you have a copy, the control copy and 3 others. So you can do quarter, so 25% each. And then most importantly, you want to make sure your users are randomized. The reason you want to do that is so you don't accidentally introduce biases. So you might have a group that has a over-indexing on a particular segment of users. So make sure, whether you're using a tool or whether you are developing your own algorithm for user allocation, make sure you test out the randomization feature of it. So some other consideration at this stage, first of all, when not to test. So the other speakers touch upon that already. So for example, if you are a SaaS product, your user base may be in the tens or the hundreds, or maybe you're looking for qualitative feedback. So why people are not happy with my product, why people are not disappointed if my product goes away. So those things, it might be more suitable to do a survey or user group to gather feedbacks that way. And technically, sometimes it might not be possible to run an A/B test. So for example, I think this was about 8 years ago, we released the video chat features on Bumble. So this is not something you can release to half of your user base, because if I've been in a test group, I have that feature, and then someone I'm trying to call doesn't have that feature on their side, it's going to pollute my perception towards the feature, hence your results. So technically, there's sometimes you can't do an A/B test, and then there's other ways you can overcome that. So prioritize by impact. So this is, solving the most important questions for your product. We always say, don't try to fix that 1% problem. So what is a 1% problem? It's a problem that only impact 1% of your customer base. So make sure you don't do that. Make sure you prioritize by on the biggest, result you will have, where you can really move the needle. And the third thing, overlapping test. So a company of a certain size, you inevitably come into this problem. So lots of people testing lots of different ideas at the same time. And then that will lead to, for example, if you are testing a different pricing models, and then you have another team that's testing the payment page, for example, and then that's likely, will be clashing and polluting each other's results. So here, make sure you really communicate with your teams what you've been doing. If you are quite small, but if you are bigger, make sure you automate those things. So have visibility, a dashboard on your segment of users, who has been subjected to what test, and then you want to have some governance as well. For example, if you are working on onboarding flow, someone working on a subscription renewal CRM strategy, for example, then there's no problem. You can overlap. So putting in those guidelines and have visibilities in a dashboard. Lastly, counter metrics. So this is what Diana said before on the overall, the wider metrics. So in this case, counter metrics are things that cannot go down no matter what you are testing. So those are your key indicators. Could be monthly active users, could be new users registered, could be revenue, and whatever that is, make sure you keep an eye on them. So no matter what are you testing, this should not be going down. So that's that. And then I won't talk too much about statistics, but I feel like it's a very important part of the A/B test. There is a link here if anyone want to check it out. So basically, that's a testing page that you can use and share. I will go through the details in a bit. But for those of you who has a data team, you might already have all this automated, in which case you are the lucky ones. You don't have to worry about what I'm talking about next. So a couple of things to think about. Basically, the question we're trying to answer here is how long should you run your test for? And there's generally 2 ways to go about it. It's calculating your sample size upfront. And secondly, calculating the significance. So once you reached it, you can conclude your test. Sample size, I hope this plays. So, if you go to the website I just showed, to define your sample size first, there's a couple of things you can input here. Let me play that again. Oh, actually, I might just leave it here. So first of all, you want to know how many trials you're running. You want to know your baseline, which is 35% in this case. Oh no, sorry. How do I go back here? There we go. So you want to know the expected effect you're trying to uplift. So in this case, you might want to say, okay, this test is only worthy for me to roll out the results if I see a 5% difference. So if I moved it from 35% to 40%. There's two buttons here, absolute. That means the absolute change in terms of the percentage conversion. And if you wanted to put it as relative, that means 5% over 35%. The other things you can play around with is the significance level. So most of the time we recommend 95%, but you might have scenarios you're happy with a lower confidence level. So this is one way. So in this case, we know, when I have like about 1,000 users, then I will know. So, before you start your test, if you have, daily active users around the thousands, then okay, after a day, I should be able to, get a sense of how things are doing. The next one. So chi-square. So this is when you are testing a conversion rate. So exactly this example. So did people do or not do something? I'll quickly play this. So here, what you want to do, this is a retrospective view. So as your test running, you have collected the results. So out of a cohort of 100 people, how many have converted in the test group and the control group? So only 4 data points you need to input. The successful results from each group and the trial sizes. Again, here you can tune your confidence level. Again, 95%, 90%, up to the scenario you have. There is a button on the link, top right. So this website is actually really good. So once you input those numbers, you can actually share the link with your team. That would take into considerations all the data you've inputted here. The next thing I want to talk about quickly is when you do A/B testing, there's another scenario. So the example we had is a very binary. So did people click, did people not click? So there are scenarios in what you might be testing about a dollar value, so a volume-related metrics. So perhaps, how many orders did someone place? What is the bidding price? So instead of like a binary percentages, you have a list of data you collected. And this page, so in this case, you need a t-test. And what you do here is input the results from your 2 groups. So control on the left, it doesn't matter the order, but you have one side and the other. So you put in all the numbers you gathered from your test. And again, what you can change is the confidence level. And then hypothesis size is whether, so the t-test has 2 tails. 2 tails means, do you care about it is one-sided or it is both? So is it bigger on one side or is it bigger on both sides? Feel free to come, it's a bit hard to explain on this side, but if you want to know more, come chat to me after. A few other things once you finish a test. I guess before you get to finish the test, there's a couple of things to think about as well. First is what happens if I don't reach significance, right? So that typically is when your user size is quite small. This is where common sense will kick in. So, whatever you can do to get some data signals, you should be able to move on from that. So if you can't get to significance, it's not the end of the world. You don't want to run it for years, right? The second thing is no peeking of the results. So that's something, a lot of us are guilty of. So by peeking the results is basically looking at the results every day, and before you reach significance, you decided to do something else. So it's very hard not to do so, but I would recommend you can peek, but don't do anything about it unless you have been flashing red on the counter metrics. Otherwise, make sure you reach statistical significance to decide on what to roll out. After you test it, after you gather your statistics and you know which one is a winning group, what you want to do, first of all, is properly conclude your test. This might sound very obvious, but you'll be surprised, sometimes when a big product team do a cleanup, there's a lot of tests that hasn't been switched off. So a proportion of the users are still being subjected to a test variant. So you want to make sure you put in processes at the end of any A/B test, make sure double check everything has been cleaned up. Second of all, document and share the results that you have gathered. And this goes back to the point before when not to test. So a third scenario is don't test something you have tested. That is a waste of time, waste of resources. So those are the things for myself.